And so we've got all this government corruption, all this targeting of Americans, and it goes on and on. If they don't kill actual people, they kill their animals or they destroy their property. And we see that again in this case where Michigan unleashes armed raids on small pig farmers and forces farmers to shoot their own pigs. It's all based on this invasive species order because you've got so many wild pigs across the country. And here in Michigan, the Department of Natural Resources have in at least two counties, in Kalkaska County and Sheboygan County, gone after farmers for raising certain breeds of pigs that they're raising humanely, independently on small farms. Meanwhile, no one ever pays attention to the conditions at factory farms run by huge corporations. And so what they did was they got these farmers, forced them to kill each individual pig, old, young, doesn't matter, and it's all in the name of saving the earth. Once again, this is Agenda 21, and they're just destroying the entire livelihood of these farmers. Economically, they're killing the stock. They undoubtedly depend on part of it for food as well. And for what justification? It's totally bunk policy. That story goes on. It's up at Natural News and at Infowars by Mike Adams, and he's calling for people to do an armed arrest of the officials from the natural resources because these departments are totally out of control. They don't even necessarily go in with good justification, and then people, animals, property must die or be destroyed. It's just crazy. We had another case here in Austin. Of course, last week the officer killed, a lot of duty paid to him, a lot of respect and honor. Yet this week, a cop shows up to the wrong house and kills a man's dog because he's responding to a domestic dispute that's not even going on at that property. Michael Paxton said his dog Cisco came in from the backyard where they were playing Frisbee. As the officer approached him, held a gun up to him and asked him to explain himself. Before he could, the dog comes out, starts barking, and Paxton tries to explain to the officer the dog is no threat, barks as any dog would at a stranger being on the property, but instead the officer kills the dog dead for no good reason. And we've got that article up. It was also covered by KXAN today, but he's got a Facebook account out about the untimely, unjust death for Cisco, calling for justice there. That's where we originally got the report where he had written up his account of what had happened. And again, the police didn't even bother to check the address match, the one they'd been given in the phone call, asking for a response. Instead, he just shows up and kills a dog. It's tragic the way these things happen. And, of course, it's reminiscent in many ways of the Andrew Wirtis case that we've been covering all week long. We sent reporters, of course, to Roswell, Georgia, to find out why a man simply raising backyard chickens who had been in dispute with the city for years over Agenda 21 sustainable development policies was shot dead, and why, when our reporters went to Georgia, where they refused entry even into City Hall, questions weren't to be answered, on and on. We have that report now filed by Darrin McBreen and Marcos Morales. Let's go to it.
Ken, you could record me, right?
I'm not recording you.
Okay.
I have no reason to record you.
All right, so in order to talk to them, do we have to write something first, or I don't understand? We're with KLBJ and Free Speech Systems in Austin, Texas.
Give me a card, show me your credentials, and I'll run it up the pole for you. 922 Sierra 2. Got two 54s here, claim they're with the news media, reluctant to show me any ID.
No, not reluctant. He's going to get it. Not resistant.
I said reluctant.
Not reluctant.
I said reluctant.
And I said, and I'm correcting the situation.
No, you're not correcting me, sir. I'm correcting you.
I'm correcting the situation.
Turn the camera off, okay?
I have no legal obligation to do so. I'm documenting this case, in particular, public servants in public, performing a public service.
Okay. Watch him over there. You're the one carrying the camera.
I'm just the cameraman.
Just need to see your ID, sir.
My identification?
Yes.
On what basis? I'm not infringing on any private property.
You're bringing a camera onto the property. You do not know who you are. I need your ID, please.
On what basis, though? Sir, if you need my press pass to show that we're press, this guy is the press, and I'm the cameraman.
Go stand in front of the Jeep, please. I want to be over here where I can talk to you.
All right, 1, 2, 3. Now, we're compliant on public property.
Nobody in there in City Hall, and I said, well, and he said, but there's, there's a spokesperson, Marcos, that you talked to?
Yeah,
so I said, well, let me go talk to her, and I'll just ask her a few questions. Mm-hmm. And then this gentleman...
Yeah, he just went up to talk with Julie Breckville. I told you to quit filming me.
Yes, sir, but you're a public servant on public property in a public place, and we are media. How are you doing?
Good, how are you doing?
We're not trying to be resistant. We're not trying to be...
I understand.
We're just doing our job that we've been sent on here to do.
Give me ID as well as he did.
No, sir. No, sir.
You asked for press pass. I had to come back and get it. You asked me for a press pass, not ID.
And we aren't breaking any laws, so...
I didn't say you were breaking laws. I said we have policies.
You said it was
regarding cameras on... Yeah, we don't allow it without a permit. I don't know that you were with the press. I told him to turn his camera off.
But the credentials are there. Those are the press credentials.
Here's what I can tell you to do. Okay? What I would do is contact you with Breckville.
And that's the person he talked to?
I have no idea who you talked to.
Yes, the
man, I just tried to walk into City Hall. I didn't know it'd be create such a fuss.
Brunette lady, short hair.
Yeah.
That's why we're here. We're here to figure all these facts out.
Well, if you would have said that to begin with, then I could have referred you to the right place. But I believe you talked with Julie, and she sent you away.
She didn't send me away. She didn't tell me to leave. She didn't express any interest in me not being here.
Did you not ask her if the city council was here?
That's exactly
and what did she say?
She said they're part-time. They're not here. So I said, okay, let me go out. And in my head, I didn't tell her where I was going. She didn't tell me to leave. In my head, I decided I'm going to go out and confer with my reporter to figure out the next move. Okay. And in doing so, we decided we should go back in there and ask her if she wouldn't mind us shooting some footage.
Another thing I'm curious about, like you said, we had to be authorized media, but why wouldn't a person with a video camera, like I'm from Austin, Texas, we have a huge city hall, and we could walk in with cameras and just, hey, how you doing, sir, and talk to people up the stairs, inside the building. So imagine our surprise when we're just blocked right away. What are you doing with those cameras? It's just kind of odd to me. Yeah, but
can't answer that, sir.
Okay.
I'll be honest with you.
All right. Are we allowed to videotape the building, for example, for like a B-roll or something? I mean, is this privately owned property?
Yeah, and I would check with Julie.
Yeah, in Georgia, really, there's no publicly owned property. Everybody owns something. As far as property, but I don't care what you know.
Okay. Just from the outside.
That's up to him. He's a city hall officer. Then, so it's his. He's more familiar with what they allow at city hall than I am.
Sure.
And if he tells you, he asks you not to, then.
Okay. So you wouldn't be comfortable with us videotaping the building?
I would like for you to talk with Julie Breckville, and if she says fine, I'm fine with it. I'm just carrying out my duties here at city hall.
You guys get much excitement in this small town?
Set off now. Turn it off.
No, it's not off.
Yeah, we're up at Chicken Man's house. Well, go.
Yep.
Cool. You have any questions? Feel free to answer. I'll be glad to.
Were you called in on that at all, or the Chicken Man? That's a tragic story.
Yes. It says both are off days, so neither one of us were here.
Fortunately off that day. So.
Okay, but remember, he didn't want the city. We have to get permission for that.
I'm getting footage of the cops driving off.
Ridiculous. God, can they make it any more difficult? Now, was the audio working on that, or was it just going to the microphone?
Just going to the shotgun.
Okay, we got shotgun. Good. Well, a funny thing happened to us in front of City Hall in Roswell, Georgia today. We showed up here moments ago to enter City Hall, see if we can interview some of the people in the City Council, perhaps talk to the mayor. And we were immediately met by police officers who told us we were not allowed to enter City Hall. Also, they told us we weren't allowed to take any photographs and that we must have the proper credentials to photograph in the area. You know, we had a little scene that went on for a while. Marcos and I kind of schooled them on our basic rights and that we're allowed to photograph. But interesting, this family over here, moments later, showed up and began taking pictures right there in front of City Hall. So apparently, some people are allowed to, others, info warriors, are not. I'm Darrin McBreen, Infowars.com.
Well, that is some pretty colorful color of law. Somehow you're not allowed to film out in public. Somehow there is no public property in Georgia, and you have to ask permission to even film a building, and they didn't want to let them inside the building. Nobody wanted to answer questions. They didn't even think cameras were allowed to roll. So I guess there's no First Amendment in Georgia. There's only Agenda 21. And that is what it is. It is curbing industrial development. It's curbing first world industrialization overall in favor of this world government policy they're pushing forward. Not that these local cops know anything about it at all. They just tell people to shut up and don't ask questions about Andrew Wirtis and why he died for having backyard chickens. Had a dispute for years with the city. Suddenly it ends in an explosion and his death when they try to evict him in a raid. But what is going on more behind the scenes is this is all dating back to 1991 when they had the United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, where they had the Agenda 21 rolled out at the hands of top globalist Maurice Strong, among others. And you've heard from George Hunt, you've heard from Michael Kaufman and others who were at those meetings, who covered those meetings, who read the reports in detail. They want to totally curtail the United States Western society development. They want to redistribute wealth to the third world, and they want to clamp down on everything that has made America great, everything that's made Americans wealthy, hardworking, and that's what we see here. Urin Mason has fleshed out a lot of quotes from that UN CED conference back in 1991, and he ties it to the Andrew Wirtis event, saying the tragic case of Andrew Wirtis, we learn what it means to live under the yoke of Agenda 21. Its repeated calls for deindustrialization and the developed world to be ended by the global elite, and it's much more than that. And so you've got this Ignacy Sachs writing a report in 1991 in which he uses what Urian calls the ultimate euphemism. The blueprint for mass death is now the virtuous green path. And it says to be meaningful, these strategies have to be carried out long-term, over the span of several decades, 35 to 40 years at a good time, a good compromise to keep people distracted, unable to follow the real issues. God knows those cops in Roswell, Georgia certainly couldn't follow the issues. It's hard enough knowing what you're looking at and trying to research it. It's all this long-term smokescreen to keep the eye of the public off the ball and to slowly phase in these policies, these developments. But what do they call for? They openly call for taxing the West, redistributing wealth to the developing nations, not to help them either, really, just to lower population. They want to redistribute that wealth in a way that curbs their population. Don't empower them, don't give them homes and things, just curb the population, kill the West's standard of living, bring everyone into one global government. That's what you see here. And here's the document. You can go read it for yourselves. The next 40 years, transition strategies to the virtuous green path. North, South, East, global. The virtuous green path of exterminating everyone. Meanwhile, it's all being done in the name of climate change, of global warming. And Paul Joseph Watson reports that penguins, polar bears, glaciers, Arctic ice, and more are all thriving. You've got reports from the Toronto Star about how polar bear populations are defying predictions. Instead of curbing down to less than 650, they're still at the 1,000 plus level, even though they've been hunted and other things have happened. You've got twice as many emperor penguins as they thought in Antarctica, as the first ever count from satellites in space confirms a population more than twice the level they thought at 595,000 birds, 600,000 birds, more than the 270 to 350,000 birds they thought existed. And the glaciers aren't melting. You've got to remember the same globalists calling for this world government and saying we have to give up our rights and our way of life due to climate change and the global warming. We're predicting global cooling in the 70s and calling for the same draconian action. And that's just what they do in action. They just want to curtail human activity, put in a dictatorship, and depopulate the planet. They really could care less about the wildlife. That's just an excuse. I think you know that. We've shown the research. We'll continue to bring it to you. We turn now to our quote of the day. In this possibly terminal phase of human existence, democracy and freedom are more than just ideals to be valued. They may be essential to survival. Those are the words of Noam Chomsky, and we'll be right back in the interview with Holland Vanden Nieuwenhof, one of the makers of A Noble Lie, about the Oklahoma City bombing, as well as Dale Phillips, a member of the investigative committee put together by State Rep Charles Key. Stay tuned, and thanks for supporting Infowars Nightly News.